My name is Daniel, and what I'm about to share with you is beyond comprehension. It's a story of a journey so harrowing it haunts my every waking moment. There are things in this world, or perhaps beyond it, that should never be tampered with, and I learned that lesson the hard way. It all began on a stormy night when an old friend, Richard, showed up at my doorstep, his eyes filled with an inexplicable dread. He had been researching the occult, he told me, delving into ancient texts that promised the impossible an opportunity to glimpse beyond the realm of the living. I was skeptical, of course, but Richard was insistent. He claimed to have discovered a ritual, one that could allow us to peer into other dimensions, to see what no living soul was ever meant to witness. He begged me to join him in this experiment, and against my better judgment, I agreed. We gathered the necessary materials: candles, a tarnished silver mirror, and a book of forbidden incantations that sent shivers down my spine. We retreated to Richard's dimly lit basement, the storm outside adding an eerie soundtrack to our reckless endeavor. The incantations were spoken, the candles flickered ominously, and the room seemed to pulse with an unnatural energy. And then it happened: a rift, a tear in the fabric of reality materialized before our eyes. It was a swirling vortex of darkness, beckoning us to step through. Richard was the first to take the plunge. With a look of grim determination, he stepped into the void and disappeared. I hesitated, my heart pounding, but curiosity overcame fear, and I followed. Part 2: The Abyss Unveiled. As I stepped through the rift, a sensation of profound disorientation washed over me. It was as if the very fabric of my being had been stretched and twisted. The world around me dissolved into a maelstrom of swirling colors and shapes, and I felt as if I were being pulled apart and reassembled. When the chaos subsided, I found myself in a place that defied all reason and description. I stood on a desolate plain, the sky above an oppressive crimson hue. The air was thick with a noxious stench, and the ground beneath my feet was jagged and scorched. I called out for Richard, but my voice was swallowed by the oppressive silence. There was no sign of him, no trace of the portal we had entered. I was utterly alone in this nightmarish realm. As I ventured further into this twisted landscape, I encountered grotesque and nightmarish creatures, twisted amalgamations of flesh and bone, with eyes that radiated an unholy malevolence. They seemed to sense my presence and advanced with a predatory grace. I ran, my heart pounding, my mind racing. There was no escape, no sanctuary in this hellish dimension. The creatures pursued me relentlessly, their distorted forms contorting and shifting as they closed in. I stumbled upon a ruined city, its crumbling spires and shattered buildings a testament to unspeakable destruction. The city was a labyrinth of despair, and I found myself trapped within its decaying streets. It was there that I witnessed horrors that still haunt my nightmares: a procession of tormented souls, their faces contorted in agony, their bodies racked by unseen tormentors. They begged for release, for an end to their suffering, but there was no salvation to be found. I tried to make sense of this nightmarish landscape, to find a way back to the rift, but it was as if the very laws of reality had ceased to exist. Time was an abstract concept, and the boundaries between life and death had blurred. And then, in the heart of the ruined city, I found a sinister figure, a being of darkness and malevolence, its form constantly shifting and warping. It regarded me with eyes that seemed to pierce my very soul, and I knew that I was in the presence of something ancient and incomprehensible. The being spoke, its voice a cacophony of whispers and screams that echoed in my mind. It revealed to me the true nature of the realm I had entered, a place beyond the boundaries of life and death, a place where the damned were eternally imprisoned. It told me that I had trespassed into a realm meant for the souls of the wicked, a realm of eternal torment and suffering. It was a place where the very essence of my being would be consumed, where I would become a part of the unending cycle of agony. I pleaded for a way out, for a chance to return to the world I had known, but the being only laughed, a chilling, mirthless laugh that sent shivers down my spine. It told me that there was no escape, that I had willingly ventured into the abyss, and now I would pay the price for my curiosity. With a gesture, the being summoned the grotesque creatures that had pursued me, and they closed in with ravenous hunger. I screamed as they tore into my flesh, their jagged claws and teeth a symphony of pain and despair. And then, as the darkness closed in around me, I felt myself being pulled apart, my very essence unraveling. I was consumed by the abyss, a prisoner in a realm of eternal suffering. Part 3, The Return from Damnation. In the abyss, time ceased to exist, and the torment felt both eternal and fleeting. I was trapped in a never-ending cycle of agony, a part of a malevolent existence that defied all reason. There was no escape, no respite from the relentless suffering. But then, as if by some miracle, a glimmer of hope appeared in the darkness. It was a faint flicker of light, a beacon in the all-encompassing despair. It drew me in, a distant promise of salvation that seemed almost too good to be true. With every ounce of strength I could muster, I clawed my way toward that dim light. It grew brighter as I approached, and I felt a strange sensation, a pulling, a force that tugged at my very being. It was as if the abyss itself were reluctantly letting me go. And then, with a sudden, violent jolt, I was ripped from the abyss and thrust back into the world of the living. The transition was disorienting, and I found myself gasping for breath, my body convulsing with the shock of returning from damnation. I lay on the basement floor, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. The rift had closed, the portal to the abyss sealed once more. But I was alive, or at least I was no longer in that nightmarish realm. I looked around, frantically searching for any sign of Richard, but he was nowhere to be found. It was as if he had been erased from existence, consumed by the very darkness we had unleashed. As I stumbled to my feet, I realized that I had been changed by my ordeal. The memories of the abyss, the horrors I had witnessed, were etched into my mind like a scar that would never fade. I knew that I could never truly escape the darkness that had claimed me. I tried to warn others, to share my harrowing tale, but no one believed me. They dismissed it as a fevered dream, the product of a disturbed mind. I was left to carry the burden of my knowledge alone, a burden that grew heavier with each passing day. I couldn't escape the feeling that the abyss still called to me, that it yearned to reclaim what it had lost. It was a presence that lingered in the shadows, a malevolent force that would never truly release its grip on my soul. And so, I am left with the knowledge that there are realms beyond our understanding, places where the boundaries of life and death are but fragile illusions. I am left with the knowledge that I ventured where no living soul should ever go, and I returned forever changed, a witness to the horrors that lurk in the darkest corners of existence. Part 4, The Haunting Legacy. In the wake of my nightmarish ordeal, I became a recluse, haunted by the memories of the abyss and the loss of my friend Richard. The world outside felt like a distant, indifferent reality, while the darkness within me grew ever more pronounced. I began to experience vivid, disturbing dreams that were more like visions, glimpses into a realm that mirrored the abyss I had escaped. In these dreams, I saw Richard, his form twisted and contorted, his eyes filled with an unquenchable hunger. He beckoned to me from the shadows, his voice a ghostly whisper in the recesses of my mind. He told me that he was trapped in a liminal space, neither alive nor dead, a prisoner of the very ritual we had foolishly performed. I knew I had to find a way to rescue him, to free him from the torment that held him captive. But the knowledge of the ritual, the incantations, and the silver mirror had been lost in the chaos of our ill-fated experiment. I scoured libraries and archives, delving into obscure texts and consulting with experts in the occult. I was met with skepticism and disdain, but I pressed on, driven by a desperate determination to save my friend. It was during my research that I encountered a mysterious figure, an enigmatic scholar known only as Professor Lazarus. He claimed to possess knowledge of the ritual, knowledge that had been passed down through generations of his family. Lazarus agreed to help me, but his motives were shrouded in mystery. He spoke of a debt owed to my family, a debt that could only be repaid by assisting me in my quest. I had no choice but to accept his offer, and we embarked on a perilous journey into the heart of the occult. Under Lazarus's guidance, we reconstructed the ritual, piecing together the fragments of incantations and symbols. The preparations were meticulous and time-consuming, and all the while I felt the abyss calling to me, its presence a constant, malevolent presence in the background. Finally, the night of the ritual arrived, a night much like the one that had led to our descent into hell. But this time, I was prepared, armed with knowledge and determination.